Hello. Today I want to give you an overview of the Airspace sample site, and particularly the main feature of it, which is Handlebar Templates, to give you an idea of what you can do with them and how quickly you can build sites leveraging them. So if you go to airspace.sitecorefoundation.com, this is just an example microsite that's built entirely with Handlebar Templates. You can take a look. It's kind of a nice little page. It's actually a free template that I was able to download that's based on Bootstrap. But if you look at this, I mean, you have different areas, sections, and some things that are kind of like this is a collection of 8 different content areas. And then you have facts and a little carousel. So pretty typical of kind of a microsite type page structure. And if you look at this in Experience Editor, you can see it's exactly what you expect from a Sitecore type site, right? So everything's Experience Editor friendly. You can deal with the fields themselves, even like the navigation titles of the pages. I mean, everything is really what you would expect, right? Completely editable. And even these things are all individually editable, just as you would want to. Right? And each of these we can kind of deal with. But here's the thing. This was built with no custom components. And what you're seeing here is really a rendered handlebar template. And it's completely Experience Editor friendly. So take this for example. So I can actually select the outer one, and I can click this little Edit Template button. It actually shows you the template code that actually makes this thing up. So if you do Edit Code, you'll see a nice friendly code editor, and you can see this is binding to the title, and this is binding to the subtitle of an item that this actually happens to be bound to. And this is a nice little code editor. Gives you lots of different options, color coding and everything. So you can basically build whatever markup you want. So this entire site's built like that. So just to give you an idea of other things, like we saw this section over here, right? So if we look at the handlebar template for this is actually binding to a collection. So if we look at that, we can see we're doing an each on the items collection and displaying the name and the description and the icon value. Well, how do you know what items you actually can bind to? Well, we actually can jump up to the handlebar collection container. And this is one of a couple of different containers that we have. You can either you have a regular handlebar container which can bind to a single item, but this collection container is actually bound to a root folder, or I can select individual items, and actually automatically supports pagination if we wanted to. Not only that, you can have some more interesting ones, like you actually can build your own helper functions, and one of the helper functions I've built actually allows you to embed placeholders in handlebar templates. I think I'm in the outer one, but let me double check. Yep, this is the outer layout template, and you can see it has a handlebar function that I've defined, and I'll show you in another episode how you can define your own functions and how these work. But this is basically defining placeholders that work like any other Sitecore placeholders. Actually, they work like our dynamic placeholders, so you can nest them. So very useful. And just to show you a little bit on the implementation side, right? So here's the home page. And essentially what I've done, so typical Helix fashion, under templates, under SF for Sitecore Foundation, we have our Airspace project, and we define content types and page templates. So page template, we really just have the home page and the content page. But content types, we define a section, and these are just arbitrary, right? So title, subtitle, content, CTA and image, services, I mean, these are just semantic to the kind of data that we're dealing with, and testimonials, right? And you can see in here, under shared content, I've created those areas and populated with some content. So my collection containers are just really bound to the top level folders or individual items, depending on what they happen to do. We can see our handlebar data sources. We have data source pages, services, stats, and testimonials for things that they can bind to. The other thing I want you to note is, especially when we're dealing with stuff that are collections or even individual items, so we can actually personalize this on two levels. We can actually personalize the template itself. So if I wanted to, I can create a personalization rule and change the handlebar template completely. Maybe show 3 per row, or use a carousel. I can completely change it. But the other thing I can do is I can go up to the collection container. I can personalize the collection container. And what that'll enable you to do is completely change the data source and what data you're actually bound to. So this kind of gives you two options to kind of easily set up A/B testing and personalization around these type of things. And I was able to actually put this whole microsite together in about half a day, because really everything was bound to existing markup. Like this navigation is really Handlebar template itself. So you can see this is actually just like the header, and then each items we bind the navigation title with the item URL and navigation title. So I think this is a very powerful way to kind of build simple interfaces or simple components without having to go create a rendering, create a data template. Well, you have to create a data template, but creating a rendering and going through all the setup, and then you end up having it in Sitecore, and you can manage it that way. It's just a lot quicker way to work. And one other thought is the template binding process is kind of lazy load. The object I have is actually a dynamic object that wraps the Sitecore item. I'll probably do a deeper dive in how we actually put this together in another episode. But I think that gives you a good idea of what you can do and kind of how these handlebar templates work. Thanks.